Great, another burden, my mother said at a cookout with 35 guests. The afternoon I told my family I was pregnant. My father didn't even look up from his plate. He just nodded and added, "We wish you were never born, and now there will be 2 of you." 35 people heard it. Aunts, uncles, cousins, the neighbor who brings pie every 4th of July. Nobody said a word. I smiled. I stood up. And I walked to the cooler to get a glass of water like nothing happened. Because what I had set in motion that morning before I ever drove to their house was about to dismantle every lie they'd built with my money, my savings, and my silence. They just didn't know it yet. But before I tell you what happened at that cookout, I need to take you back 3 years to the day my father lost his job and I made the worst financial decision of my life. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. Drop your location and what time it is where you are right now. I love seeing where you all are tuning in from. I'm Morgan. I'm 29. I'm a nurse practitioner at a small county clinic in Ohio. And this is how I stopped being my family's invisible ATM. Now let me take you back to 3 years ago, the week my father came home from the factory for the last time. The plant on Route 9 shut down on a Tuesday. My father, Earl Calloway, walked through the front door at 2 in the afternoon, carrying a cardboard box with a coffee mug and a framed safety certificate. 58 years old, 31 years on the floor, no degree, no severance worth mentioning. My mother called me that night, not my sister Vivian, me. "Morgan, your father won't file for unemployment. He says it's humiliating. The electric bill is past due and the water's next." I sat at the kitchen table with my husband Ryan. He'd just come off a 12-hour shift pulling wire at a new subdivision. His hands were still dusty. "We can help," Ryan said, "but set a number and a timeline." So I did. $800 a month, 1 year. That was the agreement in my head at least because nobody wrote anything down. I called my mother back. "Ryan and I can send $800 a month until Dad finds something." My father got on the line. His voice was low and tight, the way it gets when pride is doing the talking. "Don't tell anyone. I don't want the family knowing I'm taking money from my daughter. I promised." That was my first mistake because a month later I was on the phone with my Aunt Ruth, my mother's older sister, and she mentioned how relieved she was that Dad's disability settlement had come through, that the family could breathe again. Disability settlement. My father never filed for disability. He never filed for anything. I sat with the phone pressed to my ear and said nothing. $800 a month was supposed to last 1 year. 3 years later, I was still sending it. I set the number. I forgot the timeline. The favoritism wasn't new. It was just the wallpaper of my childhood. So constant, I stopped noticing it. When Vivian graduated college, my parents threw a party. Streamers on the mailbox, a sheet cake from the bakery downtown that said, "Our star, 40 people in the backyard." When I finished nursing school 2 years later, top of my cohort pinning ceremony and everything, my parents forgot. They were 3 towns over helping Vivian look at apartments. My mother texted me that night, "Sorry, honey, Vivian needed us today. We'll celebrate soon." We never did. Then came the weddings. Vivian married Derek Hull. He managed the biggest auto dealership in the county. My father shook Derek's hand at the rehearsal dinner and said loud enough for the whole table, "Finally, a man in this family who knows how to make real money. I married Ryan Grant." 8 months later, small ceremony. My parents came. At the reception, my father met Ryan for the first time and called him Wire Boy. Not to his face, to my Uncle Frank. But Ryan heard. Ryan didn't say a word. He just squeezed my hand under the table and kept eating. That's who Ryan is. He doesn't fight with words. He builds things. He fixes things. He shows up. But from that night forward, every family dinner, every holiday, every phone call, it was always Vivian. Vivian's promotion, Vivian's new car, Derek's dealership numbers, and Morgan. Morgan's fine. Morgan's busy. Morgan doesn't need anything. Except I was the one wiring $800 on the first of every month. So the light stayed on. Then my father asked me for something bigger, and I said yes because that's what I did back then. I said yes. It started with the car. My father's truck died 6 months after the plant closed. He needed wheels to get to job interviews, or so he said. He went to the credit union, but his credit was wrecked. "Morgan, I just need a cosigner. I'll make every payment." Ryan looked at me across the kitchen. He didn't say no, but his jaw tightened the way it does when he's holding something back. I signed anyway. That was chain number 2 around my neck. If my father missed a payment, my credit score would tank, and Ryan and I were saving to buy a house before starting a family. Then came the church roof. Our church on Elm Street had a leak that ran all winter. My mother sat at Sunday dinner, dabbing her eyes. The pastor says they need $5,000 or the whole sanctuary ceiling comes down. Nobody stepped up. It breaks my heart. I transferred $5,000 to the church account that Monday under the name Calloway Family because my mother asked me to. The following Sunday, Pastor Mike Brennan thanked the Calloway family from the pulpit. My mother stood. My father nodded along from the pew. I sat in the 3rd row and said nothing. And then there was the land. My grandmother, my mother's mother, owned a small parcel behind my parents' house, 4/10 of an acre on Maple Street. Before she passed 5 years ago, she told me and Aunt Ruth both, "This land is for Morgan. She'll need it." But Grandma never wrote a will. And after she died, the deed sat in legal limbo. My parents held the property. Every time I asked about transferring it, my mother had the same answer. "Not now, Morgan. You're being selfish." The letter came on a Wednesday. My friend Jess still lived at my old apartment, the one I had before Ryan and I got our place. A piece of mail showed up with my name on it, forwarded from the bank. Jess called me at the clinic between patients. "Morg, you got something from First National. Looks official." I picked it up after my shift, sat in my car in Jess's driveway and tore it open. Account closure notice, savings account ending in 4471. Final balance $0.00. I stared at it so long the streetlight came on. That account was opened when I was 6. My father set it up. A joint account, his name and mine. Every birthday check from Grandma went in there. Every dollar I earned bagging groceries in high school. Every bit of graduation money. By the time I turned 18, there was just over $14,000 in that account. I never touched it. I thought of it as a safety net, something solid underneath everything else. I called the bank the next morning. The customer service agent pulled up the records and confirmed it in a flat, professional tone. The account was closed 7 months ago. A withdrawal of $14,216 was made by the joint account holder. 7 months ago, I did the math twice. 7 months ago was exactly 1 month before Vivian and Derek closed on their new house. I sat in my car in the clinic parking lot, engine off, hands on the wheel, $14,000, 18 years of birthday cards and summer jobs. Gone in a single withdrawal I never authorized and technically didn't need to because my father's name was on the account. He didn't steal it, not legally, but he took it. I called my mother that evening. I kept my voice steady the way I do with difficult patients at the clinic. Calm, clinical. "Mom, my savings account. The one Dad opened when I was 6. Someone withdrew $14,000. A pause. 1 second. 2. What account? That thing closed years ago. Morgan, I have the letter. It closed 7 months ago. The full amount was withdrawn." Another pause. Then her voice shifted. Not defensive. Offensive. "You're calling to interrogate your own parents after everything we've done for you. Your father and I raised you, fed you, kept a roof over your head for 18 years. A few thousand. And you act like we robbed a bank. It was $14,000, Mom. And how much did it cost to raise you? Do you want me to pull out receipts?" I closed my eyes. I could hear the TV in the background on her end. A game show, audience clapping. The money went to Vivian's down payment, didn't it? "I don't know what you're talking about. Vivian and Derek saved for that house themselves. Your father and I helped from our own savings, which is none of your business." She hung up. I sat on the edge of my bed. Ryan was in the doorway, arms crossed. He'd heard every word. I hadn't put her on speaker. She was just that loud. "Morgan," he said. I looked up. Enough. 2 words, that's all he said. And the way he said them, not angry, not pleading, just certain. Something in my chest cracked open because he was right. I wasn't choosing between my family and myself anymore. I was choosing for the baby I just found out I was carrying. 10 weeks along. I hadn't told anyone yet. That night, after Ryan fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with a notebook and a calculator. I wrote it down, all of it. $800 a month for 36 months. $28,800 total wired to my parents' account on the first of every month while they told the family it was disability. $14,216 taken from my childhood savings, rerouted to my sister's down payment while they told me the account was closed years ago. $5,000 donated to the church under the Callaway name while my mother took a bow in front of the congregation. Co-signed car loan still active, still tethered to my credit like an anchor. Grandma's land promised to me, held by them, used as a leash every time I asked. Total surrendered north of $48,000. And in return, my father wished I'd never been born. He just hadn't said it out loud yet. I didn't write revenge in that notebook. I wrote exit plan, step 1. Call the credit union about removing my name from the car loan. The officer said it could be done. Either Dad refinanced a loan or I paid off the remaining balance and closed it out. Remaining balance, $3,200. Step 2, stop the automatic transfer. Cancel the $800. Step 3, Aunt Ruth, the one person in this family whose word no one questions. I hadn't talked to Aunt Ruth about any of this, not the money, not the savings, not the church donation. She didn't know, but she was about to. And step 4, I didn't plan this one. My mother planned it for me. 3 days later, she texted the family group chat, cookout Saturday at our place, celebrating Viven's new house. Then a separate text just to me, Morgan, come early, bring potato salad, help me set up. Vivian's busy with the house. I read the text twice. Vivian gets the party, I get the potato salad and the setup crew. I type back, I'll be there. I have some news to share with the family, too. My mother's reply came fast. What news? I'd rather say it in person. A pause, then, fine. But after Vivian's toast, Saturday is her day. Her day. It was always her day. I set the phone down and looked at Ryan across the living room. He was rewiring a light fixture he'd picked up at the salvage yard. Something for the nursery we couldn't afford to build yet. You sure you want to do this there? He asked without looking up. I want witnesses. He nodded once, went back to stripping wire. That week moved like cold honey. I worked my shifts at the clinic. I smiled at patients. I took blood pressure readings and reviewed lab results and acted like my whole life wasn't about to pivot. But at night, I prepared. I pulled up the email confirmation from when I'd transferred $5,000 to the church. The bank's automated receipt sent to my inbox. Sender, First National Bank. Recipient, Elm Street Community Church. Donor, Morgan Grant. I screenshotted it and saved it to a folder on my phone labeled Receipts. I printed the account closure letter, the one showing $14,000 withdrawn by joint account holder. I slid it into a plain white envelope and tucked it into my purse. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened my laptop and searched for the church's public donor acknowledgement page. There it was. Callaway Family $5,000 Roof Restoration Fund. My name wasn't anywhere on it. Not yet. Thursday afternoon, 2 days before the cookout, I stopped by my parents' house to drop off my father's blood pressure medication. I'm still his daughter. I still filled his prescriptions at the clinic pharmacy. Vivian's SUV was in the driveway. She was at the kitchen counter with my mother, flipping through a home decor catalog. Her ring caught the light every time she turned a page. She looked up when I walked in. Morgan, perfect timing. Come look at these curtains. I set the pill bottle on the counter. Nice house, Viv. You and Derek must have saved hard. Vivian beamed. Honestly, the down payment was the hardest part. $15,000 total. Mom and Dad helped with 14 of it. We only had to cover the last 1,000 ourselves. She said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. Mom and Dad had 14,000. I kept my voice level. Where'd they get that? Vivian shrugged. Dad said it was from his disability savings. He's been putting money aside since the settlement. Disability savings? The settlement that didn't exist, funded by money that was mine. My mother was watching me from the stove. Her eyes were careful measuring. I smiled. That was generous of them, right? Vivian turned another page. Oh, Mom said, Pastor Mike is coming to the cookout Saturday. She wants him to bless the new house. I almost laughed. Pastor Mike, the one person outside this kitchen who knew exactly where that church donation came from, and my mother had invited him herself. That's a nice touch, I said. I'm sure the pastor will have some interesting things to say. My mother's spatula stopped moving just for a second. Then she went back to stirring. I picked up my purse and left. Friday morning, one day before the cookout, I walked into the credit union on Main Street at 9 sharp. The loan officer, a woman named Pam with reading glasses on a beaded chain, pulled up the account. The vehicle loan under Earl Calloway, you're listed as co-signer. She scrolled through the file. Remaining balance is $3,214. I want to pay it off today and remove my name from the loan entirely. Pam looked at me over her glasses. You understand that once paid in full, the lien is released. The vehicle title goes solely to the primary borrower. I understand. And you're sure? I'm sure. Ryan and I had talked about it the night before. $3,000 was the money we'd been putting aside for a crib and changing table and all the things you need when you're about to become parents. We'd figure that part out later, secondhand borrowed. It didn't matter. Pay it, Ryan had said, same way he said everything important, quiet, and final. Buy your freedom. I wrote the check. Pam processed it. She printed a release form and I signed it. Clean signature, steady hand. You're all set, Mrs. Grant. Mr. Calloway will receive notification by mail within 5 to 7 business days after the cookout. Perfect. I stood to leave and Pam said something that stopped me at the door. You know, you're the second Calloway in here this month. I turned. What do you mean? She caught herself, shook her head. I'm sorry. I can't discuss other clients' business. I nodded, walked out into the parking lot, sat in my car. The second Calloway this month, my father had been here recently. For what? I didn't know yet, but I filed it away right next to the envelope in my purse. Friday evening, I sat on the back porch with my phone and a glass of water. Ryan was inside making dinner, his turn, and he wouldn't let me argue. I dialed Aunt Ruth. She picked up on the second ring. Morgan, it's been too long, sweetheart. Aunt Ruth, I need to tell you something. It's not small. Silence on her end. Then go ahead. I told her everything. Not fast, not emotional, just the facts laid out in order the way a nurse charts a patient history. The $800 a month for 3 years. The disability lie, the savings account, $14,000, the church roof donation, and my mother taking credit, the co-signed car loan. My father held over my head. I could hear Aunt Ruth breathing steady like she was measuring each word I said against something she already suspected. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Your mother told me your father got a disability settlement. He never filed for disability, Aunt Ruth. He never filed for anything. And the $14,000, that was the account your grandmother started. Yes, ma'am. Another silence. I heard a chair creak like she was sitting down heavily. What do you want me to do, Morgan? Nothing. I don't want you to do anything. I just need one person in this family to know the truth in case it matters tomorrow. Tomorrow? The cookout? A pause. When Aunt Ruth spoke again, her voice had changed. Not louder, harder. I'll be at that cookout, Morgan, and I'll be listening. She didn't promise to speak up. She didn't promise to take sides. She just said she'd be there and she'd listen. But anyone who knows Aunt Ruth, retired teacher, 32 years in a classroom, raised 4 kids alone after Uncle Bill passed, knows that when she listens, what comes next shakes the room. Later that night, I opened my laptop and composed an email to Pastor Mike Brennan. I'd known Pastor Mike since I was 12. He baptized me. He married Ryan and me. He was a good man, careful with people's privacy, honest when it counted. I wrote, Pastor Mike, I want to thank you for keeping my donation private all this time, but I'd like to update the church records to reflect the actual donor, Morgan Grant, not the Calloway family. I'll explain when the time is right. Thank you for everything. His reply came within the hour, faster than I expected from a man who still printed his sermons on paper. Morgan, I've always known the bank transfer had your name. I respected your wishes. I'll update our records this week, and Linda invited me to the cookout Saturday. I'll see you there. Then, a second email 3 minutes later. One more thing. Linda asked me to publicly thank the Calloway family again at the cookout for the church roof donation. I assume you'd like me to handle that differently now. I typed 2 sentences back. Just tell the truth, Pastor. That's all I've ever wanted. I closed the laptop, walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and looked in the mirror. Then I picked up my phone and opened the banking app. The automatic transfer, $800, first of every month, to Earl and Linda Calloway's joint checking, was set to go in 6 days. I pressed cancel. 3 years, 36 payments, $28,800. Done. I didn't cancel out of anger. I canned because I couldn't keep funding people who would call my child a burden. That's not revenge. That's math. And tomorrow was Saturday. Saturday morning, cookout day. I woke at 6. Ryan was already up. Coffee made, work boots by the door, even though he wasn't working today. Old habit. I stood in the kitchen and made the potato salad because I'd promised, and because Morgan Calloway, Morgan Grant, keeps her word even when nobody else does. Ryan leaned against the counter, watching me dice eggs. We're still going. We're still going. Last time he nodded. Didn't ask what that meant. He already knew. I got dressed. A simple sundress, blue with white flowers, flat sandals, no jewelry except my wedding ring. I didn't do my makeup any differently than a regular Saturday. This wasn't a performance. This was an ending. I slid my phone into my purse, the one with the screenshot saved in a folder labeled Receipts. I tucked the white envelope next to it. The bank's account closure notice. $14,000. Earl Calloway, joint holder. Ryan drove. Neither of us turned on the radio. The road between our apartment and my parents' house is 11 minutes of county highway lined with cornfields and telephone poles. I watched them pass. My hand rested on my stomach. We pulled up at 4 to noon. A few cars already in the driveway. Uncle Frank's pickup, Aunt Ruth's sedan. She was already here. Good. My mother appeared at the front door before I'd closed the car door. You're late. The tables aren't set up. The cooler needs ice. Come inside. No, hello? No, how are you, Morgan? Not even a glance at Ryan. I carried the potato salad through the front door and into the kitchen. And there, taped to the refrigerator, was a blown-up photo of Vivian and Derek standing in front of their new house. Gold glitter letters above it. Congratulations. Next to it, nothing. No photo of me, not from nursing school, not from my wedding, not from anything. I set the bowl down and went to work. Okay, hold on. Before I keep going, I want to step outside the story for a second. I know what some of you might be thinking. Why didn't I just stop sending money years ago? And honestly, the car loan, the land, the $800 a month I couldn't just cut off without my dad's credit, dragging mine down with it. Sometimes it's not about wanting to stay. It's about untangling yourself first. So here's my question for you. What would you have done when Vivian casually told you the $14,000 down payment came from Dad's disability savings? Knowing the truth? Tell me in the comments. All right, back to the cookout. By 1 o'clock, the backyard was full. 35 people, maybe more. Aunts and uncles I saw twice a year. Cousins with kids running through the sprinkler. Mrs. Dalton from 2 doors down carrying her famous cherry pie. The Henderson couple from church. Pastor Mike hadn't arrived yet. My mother had outdone herself. Streamers, balloons, a banner strung between 2 oak trees. Congratulations, Vivian and Derek, new homeowners. There was a folding table lined with casseroles and a cooler full of beer and soda. The grill was going, my father manning it with tongs in one hand, Bud Light in the other. He looked almost happy. I hadn't seen that in 3 years. At 1:30, my mother clinked a fork against her glass and called everyone to attention. My father set down his tongs and stood at the head of the long table. He was wearing his good flannel, the one he saved for church. Today, we're here because my daughter Vivian did something her mother and I are real proud of. He raised his can. She bought a home. First one in this family since we got this place 30 years ago. We raised her right and she made something of herself. He looked at Derek and this guy right here. Heck of a son-in-law. Everyone clapped. Vivian stood waved like a homecoming queen. Derek shook my father's hand. My mother added, "The Calloway family also donated to the church roof fund this year. It's been a blessed season for us." More clapping, a few amens from the church crowd. I stood near the cooler, holding a plastic cup of lemonade. Ryan was beside me, hands in his pockets. Uncle Frank wandered over. He's my father's younger brother, quieter, sharper. "How you doing, Morgan? Your folks sure do talk about Vivian a lot." I smiled. "I'm good, Uncle Frank." He studied my face for a second, then nodded and walked back to the table. Not everyone was blind. The toast wound down. People went back to eating. Laughter floated across the yard. Kids chased each other around the oak trees. My mother refilled the chip bowls with the focus of a general running a campaign. I waited. Ryan caught my eye from across the table and gave me one small nod. I set down my cup. I stood up. "I have something to share too, if that's okay." The yard didn't exactly go quiet, but enough people turned. My mother looked up from the chip bowl, mouth pressed thin. "Ryan and I are expecting a baby. I'm 10 weeks along." For about 2 seconds, it was fine. A cousin clapped. Mrs. Henderson said, "Oh, how wonderful!" Uncle Frank smiled. Then my mother spoke. "Great. Another burden." She didn't whisper it. She said it at conversation volume, standing right there at the table. "Your sister is buying a house. That's what we're celebrating this month." My father was still at the grill. He didn't even turn around. He just nodded and said loud enough for the nearest 15 people to hear clearly, "We wish you were never born, and now there'll be 2 of you." The yard went dead silent. I heard the grill sizzle, a kid's sprinkler hissing 20 feet away, a bird somewhere in the oak tree. Aunt Ruth set her glass down on the table slowly, like she was placing a period at the end of a sentence. Uncle Frank's mouth was open. Mrs. Dalton put her hand over her own. Ryan's knuckles were white on the back of his chair, but he didn't move. He was watching me. I smiled. I nodded. I walked to the cooler, took out a bottle of water, twisted the cap off, and took a long sip because Pastor Mike's car had just pulled into the driveway. Aunt Ruth stood up. She didn't rush. She didn't raise her voice. She pushed her chair back, smoothed her blouse, and faced my parents the way she probably faced 30 years' worth of misbehaving 10th graders. With patience, that made you more nervous than shouting ever could. "Earl, Linda," her voice carried across the yard without effort. "I heard what you just said to your daughter in front of 35 people. Before anyone sits down for seconds, I have a question." My father set his tongs on the grill side shelf. "Ruth, this is between me and my family. I am your family," she said. "So, here's my question. The disability settlement Linda told me about last year. Earl, when exactly did you file for disability?" He didn't answer. His mouth opened, then closed. My mother stepped forward, voice pitching high. "Ruth, it's not related. We're having a party. It is related." Aunt Ruth didn't blink because if there's no disability settlement, then who's been paying your electric bill for 3 years? The silence that followed was a different kind than before. Before it was shock. This was the sound of 35 people doing math in their heads. Vivian looked at my father, then at my mother. Her smile from the toast was gone. Derek stood very still beside Vivian, arms at his sides. Uncle Frank nodded slowly like a man watching the last piece of a puzzle slide into place. Mrs. Dalton leaned to her husband and whispered something. He shook his head. Aunt Ruth sat down. She picked up her glass of sweet tea and took a sip. She was done for now. She'd thrown one grenade and sat back down. That was her style. Plant the question. Let the silence do the work. And walking through the side gate with a Bible under his arm was Pastor Mike Brennan. My mother's eyes went red on command. I'd seen it 100 times at funerals, at church, at Thanksgiving when she wanted someone to clear the dishes. "Ruth, you don't understand." Her voice trembled, pitch perfect. "Earl lost his job. I've been holding this family together by myself. Nobody knows what I've been through. My father found his footing. Kids owe their parents. That's how it works. We raised them. We fed them. We kept a roof. Earl. Uncle Frank's voice cut across the yard like a saw blade. He was standing now, plate still in hand. I just heard you say you wish your daughter was never born in front of everyone here. Don't you dare talk about what kids owe. My father's mouth snapped shut. Linda pivoted. She grabbed Vivian's arm. Vivian, tell your aunt. Tell everyone this is a beautiful day. We don't need to ruin it with drama. Vivian pulled her arm free. Gently, but she pulled it free. Mom, what's Aunt Ruth talking about? What disability settlement? It's nothing. It's a misunderstanding. Vivian stared at her. Is it? The neighbors were starting to shift. That particular small-town body language where people reach for their keys without being obvious about it. Mrs. Dalton's husband was already folding his lawn chair. Then Derek, Vivian's husband, did something I didn't expect. He walked away from the table, crossed the yard, and stopped in front of me. He leaned in close. His voice was low, just for me. Morgan, I didn't know about the $14,000. Vivian told me it was your parents' savings from years of work. I looked at him. I know, I'm sorry. I nodded. That was enough. He walked back to Vivian. The crack in their side of the family had just started, and it wasn't me who made it. Pastor Mike walked into the yard carrying a foil-covered plate and that calm Sunday sermon expression he always wore. He shook a few hands, smiled at the kids, made his way to my mother. Linda, thank you for the invitation. Beautiful spread. My mother latched onto him like a life raft. Pastor, come in. Come in. We were hoping you could do a blessing for Vivian's new home. I'd be happy to, he set his plate on the table. But first, Linda, you mentioned wanting me to thank the family publicly for the church roof donation. I want to do that properly. My mother's posture lifted. She smoothed her hair, ready for her bow. Pastor Mike turned to the yard. 30-some people, half of them still processing what Aunt Ruth had just dropped. Folks, quick word. As many of you know, our church roof needed major repair last year. $5,000. One donor covered the entire cost. He paused. Then he looked directly at me. Morgan, thank you. Your generosity kept our sanctuary from leaking all winter. My mother's face didn't change right away. It was like watching a screen freeze. Everything still there, but nothing moving behind it. Then it hit her. Well, Morgan is my daughter, she said, laughing in that bright way she uses at church functions. So it's still the Calloway family. Really? Mrs. Dalton spoke from her folding chair. Linda, last month at Quilting Circle, you said the donation was from you and Earl. That's what I meant. Morgan is part of. You stood up in church, Aunt Ruth said, not loud, not soft. You stood up and took the bow. You didn't mention Morgan's name once. My mother looked at me. I was standing by the cooler, water bottle in hand. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. My father tried to regain ground. He stepped away from the grill, jaw set. One church donation. Fine. She wants credit. She can have it. But that doesn't change the fact that we raised her. 18 years. I set my water bottle down. You're right, Dad. You raised me for 18 years. My voice was even. No shake, no edge. And I've been paying you back for the last 3. He stared at me. $800 a month, I said. Wired to your checking account on the first of every month for 36 months. That's $28,800. The yard didn't make a sound. Even the kids had stopped running. There is no disability settlement, Aunt Ruth. I looked at her. That money was from me. My bank statements show every transfer, dated and documented. My mother's hand went to her throat. Morgan, what are you doing? Are you trying to destroy this family? I'm not destroying anything, Mom. I'm just done building it for you. Uncle Frank turned to my father. His voice was loud enough that the Hendersons at the far table heard every word. $30,000, Earl. And you told her you wish she was never born. Vivian grabbed Derek's arm. Dad, $800 a month. You told me that was disability money. My father didn't answer. He picked up his beer, stared at it, and set it back down. The grill popped behind him. Smoke curled into the afternoon air. Somewhere on the street, a lawnmower started up. The rest of the world carrying on like nothing was happening. But in that backyard, the Calloway family portrait my mother had been painting for 40 years was dissolving in real time. and I still had the envelope in my purse. I reached into my purse. No dramatic pause, no speech. I pulled out the white envelope and set it on the table in front of Vivian. One more thing. Vivian looked at the envelope like it might bite her so. When I was 6 years old, Dad opened a savings account in both our names. Grandma put money in it every birthday. I added to it through high school. By the time I turned 18, there was over $14,000. I looked at my father. 7 months ago, you withdrew every cent. Vivian opened the envelope. She read the bank notice. I watched her lips move as she scanned the final balance line. $0. Her face went white. Derrick stood up from the table. He looked at my father the way you look at someone who's been lying to you for months. You told us that was your savings, Earl, from years of hard work. My father's chin came up. That account had my name on it. That money was mine. That money was from our mother. Aunt Ruth's voice was iron. From your mother-in-law. From Morgan. I was there when she gave it, Earl. Every single birthday. My mother started crying. Not the controlled kind from earlier. The real kind. The kind that comes when the audience you've been performing for finally sees behind the curtain. Half the guests were on their feet now. The Hendersons had already left. Mrs. Dalton was folding her chair but not leaving. She wanted to see how this ended. Uncle Frank stood with his arms crossed, shaking his head. Vivian set the letter down. Her hand was trembling. "Mom," she said, "is this true?" My mother didn't answer. She just cried harder. That was all the answer anyone needed. I didn't sit down. I didn't need to. This was going to be short. Dad, Mom. I looked at them both. My voice was the same one I use when I tell a patient that the test results came back and we need to talk. Calm, clear, no room for bargaining. I canned the $800 transfer last week. It's done. And I paid off the car loan yesterday. My name is off it. From next month, those payments are yours. My father's face went from red to pale in about 2 seconds. You can't just, I can because it was my money and my name. My mother tried one more play, the big one. Morgan, if you walk away from this family now, don't ever come back. I let that sentence land, let it sit there in front of 30 people like a grenade with the pin pulled. Then I said, you told me you wish I was never born, so I'm going to live like I don't exist to you. No $800, no co-signed loans, no potato salad. Somebody, I think it was Mrs. Dalton, let out a small sound, almost like a laugh she caught in her hand. Ryan stepped up beside me. He didn't say anything. He just put his hand on my back, steady, warm. I looked at the yard, the deflating balloons, the congratulations banner starting to sag on one end, Uncle Frank, Aunt Ruth, the cousins who'd been watching this whole thing unfold like a play none of them bought tickets for. I'm sorry this happened at a party, I said. Ryan and I are going to head home. We walked through the side gate. I didn't slam it. I didn't turn around. Ryan opened the car door for me. I sat down, buckled my seatbelt, and put my hands on my stomach. We drove home in silence, but it was a different silence than the drive there. This one was clean. Pause. I want to be real with you for a second. Walking away from that cookout was not some triumphant movie moment. My hands were shaking. I was 10 weeks pregnant, and my father had just told 35 people he wished I'd never been born. But I kept thinking about my baby and what kind of mother I'd be if I sat back down and ate potato salad after that. So tell me honestly, do you think I pulled the trigger on everything too hard, too fast? The money, the cosign, the church truth all at once, or should I have done it sooner? Let me know in the comments. Okay, here's what happened. The week after Monday morning, my father opened his mailbox and found the letter from the credit union. Loan paid in full, cosigner removed, vehicle title transferred to sole borrower Earl Calloway, which sounds fine. Except now Earl was the only name on a loan history tied to a credit score that couldn't support a library card, let alone a truck payment. The credit union sent a follow-up notice. Based on his current financial profile, they recommended he secure a new cosigner or risk reclassification on future credit applications. Nobody in the family was lining up. Tuesday, my mother checked the bank account. No $800 deposit. She checked again. Wednesday, nothing. She called me. I let it ring. She called Ryan. He answered because Ryan always answers even when he doesn't want to. Linda Morgan said what she needed to say. Saturday, we're not available. He hung up. Not rude, just done. Thursday, my mother called Aunt Ruth. I know this because Aunt Ruth told me later. She gave me the conversation almost word for word. Ruth, Morgan is tearing this family apart. She humiliated us at the cookout. She's punishing us for nothing. Aunt Ruth's reply: Linda, you told your daughter you wished she was never born in front of 35 people. Don't call me about betrayal. My mother hung up on her own sister, but the call I didn't expect came Thursday evening. Vivian. Her voice sounded different. Not the golden child lilt. Something thinner, more careful. Morgan. Derek says if the down payment came from your account, he wants to pay it back. He won't start our life in a house bought with stolen money. I leaned against the kitchen counter. Vivian, that's between you and Derek. It's between all of us, and I'm sorry. It was the first time she'd ever said that to me. Derek and I met at the diner on 5th Street the following Saturday. Neutral ground, just the two of us in a corner booth, coffee between us. He looked tired, not angry. Tired the way people look when they've spent a week realizing the foundation under their house was built on sand. I want you to hear me say this, he started. I didn't know. Vivian told me it was their savings. Years of setting aside money from your dad's settlement. I never questioned it. I believe you, Derek. Vivian and I will pay you back $500 a month. It'll take time, but we'll cover the 14. You don't have to. Yeah, I do. He wrapped his hands around the coffee cup. I'm not going to raise my kids in a house paid for with money taken from their aunt. That's not who I want to be. I respected that, so I nodded. Then he told me something that changed the shape of the story. Vivian's not sleeping. She told me something 2 nights ago that she's been carrying for a while. He paused. Your mom told the extended family, the cousins, the aunts on the other side, that you'd been struggling with depression, that you were making things up, exaggerating. I sat down my coffee. She told them this so that if you ever said anything about the money, nobody would believe you. I let that settle. My own mother had been building a wall around me, brick by brick, lie by lie, so that when the truth finally came out, I'd look like the crazy one. How long? I asked. Vivian says at least a year. A year. While I was writing checks and filling prescriptions and making potato salad, my mother was poisoning the well. The diner felt very quiet. Thank you for telling me, Derek. He nodded. We shook hands, no hug, just 2 people trying to be decent in the middle of a mess. The call came the following Tuesday, not from family, from Pam at the credit union, the same loan officer who'd processed my payoff. Mrs. Grant, I hope this isn't overstep, but after you came in last week, I flagged something in our system during a routine review. Her voice was careful, the way people sound when they're balancing procedure against conscience. Your father visited our branch 3 weeks ago to inquire about a home equity line of credit. He doesn't own a home outright. The mortgage is still not on the house, on a parcel of land 4/10 of an acre on Maple Street. My grandmother's land. I gripped the phone tighter. He can't do that. The deed isn't in his name. You're correct, which is why the application didn't proceed. The property is still in probate, but I thought you should know the inquiry was made. I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat very still in my car outside the clinic and let it sink in. My father hadn't just taken my past, the savings account, the years of monthly checks, the church donation, the credit score leverage. He'd been trying to take my future, too. Grandma's land, the only thing she'd ever meant to leave me. And he'd walked into the credit union to see if he could borrow against it. If I hadn't gone to that credit union to pay off the car loan, Pam would never have flagged Earl's inquiry. I would never have known. That evening, I called Aunt Ruth again. He tried to take the land. I said, a long breath, then call a lawyer, Morgan. I'll be your witness. Your grandmother wanted that land for you. I'll say it under oath if I have to. I called a real estate attorney the next morning. He wasn't just stealing my past. He was trying to mortgage my future. Small towns don't need newspapers. They have Mrs. Dalton. By the following Sunday, the story had moved through every circle in town. quilting group, church coffee hour, the checkout line at Harrison's Market. Not because anyone was cruel about it, because 35 people saw what happened at that cookout, and 35 people have families of their own. My mother showed up at church the next week. She walked to her usual pew, third row, left side, the one she'd sat in for 20 years. It was occupied. 2 women from the choir had gotten there early. Nobody said, "You cannot sit here." They didn't have to. The message was in the silence. The thank you plaque in the church lobby had been updated. Where it once read Calloway Family, $5,000, Roof Restoration Fund, it now said Morgan Grant. My mother saw it. She took my father by the elbow and they left before the first hymn. At the post office, Mr. Henderson, who'd been at the cookout and left early, ran into my father. His version of small talk landed like a brick. "Heard your youngest was the one covering the bills, Earl. Everything all right at home?" My father said nothing, walked to his truck, drove away. At Harrison's Market, Linda stopped going to her usual Thursday shift as a volunteer shelf stalker. Too many familiar faces, too many careful silences. Nobody organized a boycott. Nobody wrote letters. This wasn't that kind of cruelty. It was the slow, steady withdrawal of respect, the one currency my mother valued above everything else. My father started spending more time in the garage. Door closed. My mother stopped answering the phone on the first ring. Their world didn't collapse overnight. It just got smaller, one averted gaze at a time. 2 weeks after the cookout, Vivian texted me. "Can we talk?" Just the 2 of us, no parents. We met at the park on Cedar Street, the one with the old swing set where we used to play when we were kids, before the favoritism calcified into something permanent. Vivian sat on a bench, no sunglasses to hide behind, no Derek. She looked smaller without the golden child glow. "You have every right to hate me," she said. "I don't hate you, Vivian." "Then what?" I thought about it. "I'm tired. There's a difference." She nodded. "I didn't know about the savings account. I swear I didn't. Derek told me what he found out, and I didn't sleep for 3 days. She looked at her hands. "I keep thinking 18 years you saved that money and Dad just took it." "He did. I want to tell you something." Her voice dropped. "Mom told the cousins you were depressed, that you made things up, that you exaggerated. Derek told me she did it so nobody would believe you if you ever spoke up." Vivian's chin trembled. "She planned it, Morgan. Our mother planned it." I let the silence sit. A kid ran past us chasing a dog, normal life 10 feet away. We can rebuild, Vivian, you and me, but slowly and not through them. She wiped her eyes. "Okay, $500 a month. Derek already told me we'll pay back every cent." I didn't argue. It was my money. Always had been. We sat there for a while. Didn't hug, didn't cry together. Just 2 sisters on a park bench, 33 and 29, looking at the swing set where things used to be simple. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a door left open. On my terms. The article ran in the County Weekly the same week the leaves started turning. Local electrician Ryan Grant lands contract for new community center. Half a page with a photo of Ryan shaking hands with the town supervisor. The biggest construction project the township had funded in a decade. And my husband, the man my father called Wire Boy, was the lead contractor. I bought 5 copies, not to gloat, because I wanted our child to see it someday. My father read the paper. "I know because Uncle Frank told me," said Earl was sitting on his porch with the paper open to that page, staring at it like he was trying to solve an equation that wouldn't balance. Wire Boy building the town's community center, while Earl couldn't find a co-signer for his truck. Meanwhile, the attorney Ryan and I hired filed the paperwork to claim Grandma's land through probate court. Aunt Ruth signed an affidavit, a written statement under oath, that our grandmother intended the Maple Street parcel for me. The attorney said it could take 6 to 8 months, maybe longer, but it was moving. I went to my 12-week prenatal checkup. The baby was healthy, strong heartbeat. The ultrasound tech printed me a picture and I held it in the car for 10 minutes before driving home. The doctor's intake form asked, "Family support system?" I wrote, "Husband, aunt." That was enough. Ryan and I set up the nursery in the 2nd bedroom of our apartment. It was small, barely fit the crib and a dresser. The crib was secondhand from a coworker whose kids had outgrown it. The walls were pale yellow. Ryan installed the overhead light himself. It wasn't the house on Grandma's land, not yet, but it was ours. Every square inch, paid for with money nobody lied about. My baby would grow up in a small apartment, but it would be a home where nobody wishes they were never born. A month after the cookout, my mother sent a text. "Morgan, I know I said things I shouldn't have, but I'm still your mother. You can't just cut us off." I read it 3 times. Then I typed back slowly, deliberately, the way I chart notes at the clinic. "Mom, I'm not cutting you off. I'm protecting my child. When you and Dad are ready to sit down with a family therapist, I'm willing to talk, but I'm not going back to writing checks and pretending everything is fine." She didn't reply. 3 days later, Ryan's phone rang during dinner. He looked at the screen, then at me. "It's your dad," he answered. I could hear my father's voice through the speaker. Gruff clipped the way he talks when he's trying to sound unbothered. "Tell Morgan to call me." Ryan kept his voice level. "Earl, she knows how to reach you. She set a condition. It's up to you now." A pause. Then the line went dead. My father didn't call again. My mother didn't text again. Not that week. Not the week after. I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt. It did. Some nights I'd lie in bed with my hand on my stomach and think about my mother's voice at the cookout, another burden, and wonder if there was a version of this where she was different, where my father was different, where the savings account stayed intact and the land was in my name and nobody had to stand up at a family barbecue and read receipts in front of 35 people. But there wasn't. This was the version I got. I didn't close the door. I put a lock on it. The key was simple. "I'm sorry." And a chair in a therapist's office. They knew where to find both. I'm sitting on our apartment porch as I tell you this. It's early evening. The light's going gold the way it does in October in Ohio. Ryan's inside. I can hear him fitting baseboards in the nursery, tapping them into place with a rubber mallet. I don't tell this story, so you'll hate my parents. They're real people. My father lost his job at 58 and never recovered. Not financially, not in his pride, not in the way he sees himself. My mother is terrified of what people think, and she built a whole identity around being the woman whose family had it together. When reality didn't match, she rewrote it and rewrote me out of the picture. That doesn't make it okay. It makes it human, and it makes it something I had to walk away from. Here's what I learned, and I'm not saying this to preach. I'm saying it because I wish someone had told me 3 years ago before the first wire transfer. Love is not a reason to let someone take everything from you, and silence is not strength. Sometimes silence is just the sound of making yourself smaller so someone else can be comfortable. My baby's going to be born in February. A girl, if the ultrasound is right. She'll grow up in a small apartment with secondhand furniture and a father who comes home with drywall dust in his hair. She won't have a trust fund. She won't have a big family behind her. And not yet. But she'll have something I didn't. She'll have a mother who knows what she's worth, who doesn't apologize for existing, who set a boundary and held it, not with anger, but with math and truth and a white envelope on a folding table. That's my story for now. Brian just opened the door. He's holding a glass of water and giving me that look. The one that says, "Come inside. It's getting cold, so I'll go. Take care of yourselves. Thank you for staying until the end." That means a lot. Truly, if this story hit close to home, whether you've been the one writing the checks, or you've been the invisible one at the table, or you're still trying to figure out how to set that boundary, leave me a comment. Tell me, have you ever been the person keeping things running while someone else got the applause? I read every single one. If you haven't already, hit like and subscribe. And if you want another story like this one, I've linked it right in the description. It's a good one. I'll see you there.